You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. We are partnered with BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now let's hear Shane Diefenbach with the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
All right. Now, thanks, Shane. All right. Earlier today, we were able to be joined by the lead dog, the head recruiting analyst for 24/7, the great Eric Bossi. Eric has a lot of thoughts on Arizona basketball recruits and what Tommy Lloyd's strategy is and why he says that everybody should be patient. Let's check out from earlier in the day. By National Basketball Director of 24/7 Sports, Eric Bossi. Eric, appreciate you hopping in right here on your layover. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right. Again, apologize having to come to you from the Sky Club here at LAX and, dressed for travel, not for looking fly on a podcast.
Not a problem at all. But let's talk about let's talk a little bit of Arizona right here. Obviously, Wildcats get a commitment yesterday from Carter Bryant. What kind of player are they getting in Carter Bryant?
Yeah, well, the first thing with Carter is I think this is one that it seems like it's been a long time coming for Arizona. I think Wildcats fans have maybe been waiting as long as last June or July for this to happen. So to finally get it done is a big sigh of relief. And Carter's a really talented kid. We've currently got him ranked in our top 5, and he's a big kid. He's 6'8", 225, 230 pounds. He's got skill. He can shoot at some. He's very, very bouncy. He shows a lot of promise on the defensive end. He's had some really nasty, chase down type blocks that we've seen. Now the thing for him is, okay, you're a top 5 talent. Now we need you to come out there and play like it on a daily basis. But no matter what, whether he's ranked number 4, 8, whatever it may be, he's a big pickup for Arizona, and certainly a guy that, given the lead that they were thought to have, it's really good for them to lock that down and get a little confidence going.
How does that work too, especially in the recruiting scene, when you get a highly ranked guy like that? Does it open other kids' eyes a little bit where you're like, oh man, Carter Bryant, that's a top 5 kid, that's another person to look at, or is that just basically kind of a one-off?
I feel like it used to be that way a little bit, that the guys would see, oh, hey, wow, they got this top 5 dude. Maybe I need to take a closer look there. But now the kids know each other so much better through social media and all the camps and everything like that, that if it's one of their boys that they're considering playing with, they're not really going to care where they go. And also, I think we've all seen that, the package deals really don't come to fruition all that much. But now we're mixing in NIL, we're mixing in all this other stuff going on. The old standards of recruiting don't exist, but at the end of the day, it's never bad to have good players. Other good players are going to look and see that, yes, there's something going on. It might not lure them quite as much as they might have gone in the past, unless there's a natural tie to that kid. But again, it never hurts, because guys look and see, oh, okay, this guy's going there and making it all right. I'm going to be able to do that too if I look at that route.
Right. Now, what kind of impact do you see him making as a freshman? Probably a one and done, obviously, but what kind of, statistical, what kind of impact should Arizona fans be at least looking for?
I mean, who knows yet, if we're being honest. We're talking about a kid that hasn't even finished his junior year of high school, hasn't turned 17 years old yet. Right now, he's got a ranking that's based off of physical ability and upside, right? His game is still coming together. Like I said, he can shoot a little bit. He can put it on the floor a little bit. He's got some post-up game. He can play at the 4 or the 3, but projecting him in a college lineup and where he's going to be, it's hard to do, not only because we don't know where he's going to be at that point, but we have no earthly idea what Arizona or any other program's roster is going to look like by the 2024-2025 season with the way things are today. But, assuming he continues to progress and get better, you would hope that he's a guy that's able to come in and start and put up some pretty good numbers and, if he's projecting to be a one and done guy still by the time he gets on campus, you would assume that he's going to be an impact guy.
Right. Fellow Arizona commit Jamari Phillips has been playing pretty well this EYBL season. What's Arizona getting in him?
He's a scorer. I think he's a little bit of a semi-undersized two-guard, but not really that undersized. About 6'2", maybe 6'3". He can shoot from outside. He's particularly good as a pull-up jump shooter. He's lean, but he's also quite bouncy. Quick, really good first step. He has to develop his overall handle a little bit, but confidence and being afraid to get shots up or going through stretches where he's quiet, like you might get with Carter Bryant at times, that's not an issue with Jamari. Like, that guy's out there. He's got kind of an alpha mentality as a scorer. And I haven't gotten to see him yet this spring, and I would have seen him in the winter, but he transferred from Modesto Christian to Compass Prep the week before I was supposed to see him with Modesto Christian. But all indications are he's been pretty good this spring, and I'm going to be seeing him this weekend down in the Phoenix area at the EYBL.
Now, what do you think of Tommy Lloyd's recruiting strategy about, pretty limited offers, and we're going to really focus on a few kids and, better be able to hit on those? What do you think about that?
Yeah, of course, this is the hot topic among the Arizona fan base now, right? Especially in an era where it used to be that his style was more the norm. You don't get an offer until I speak to you in person, or we have you on campus. I'm gonna try and keep quiet about who our targets are. But now with social media, assistants handing out offers, it seems like the majority of programs are out there offering a lot of guys, casting a much wider net and just kind of letting the chips and seeing what they can do with it. So I think you got to go with what works for you. Tommy, Arizona's coming off a pretty good year. We saw what he was able to do with helping to build Gonzaga. I know that there's some frustration right now, especially with the way things went down with Nemhard over the last week or so of his recruitment. But I think you've got to have faith in that guy. He's made it to where he is by being who he is. And I've been lucky enough to spend some time around him, and I think the world of the guy. I think he's a big-time leader. I think he's a guy that kids relate to. And I know things haven't been perfect for maybe these last 4 or 5 months with what you're hoping for on the recruiting trail. But I still think the guy deserves a little bit more chance and some more time to see if this is going to work or not. You knew what you were getting when you got him. You knew it was going to be heavy on the international side. And you hope that the Arizona brand was going to be able to make a splash with some West Coast kids. And I think people forget about some of his successes. He did get Kylan Boswell last year. And if you didn't know, he just turned 18. He was only 17 during the season. Obviously, that's a joke.
Right. I was going to say underreported fact.
Yeah, very underreported. I'm here to provide this hard-hitting news, right? But you got Jamari Phillips, you got Carter Bryant. There is success happening on the recruiting trail. It's just it seems like when there's been some misses, they've been kind of very public and out there misses that have caused a lot of discussion. And it's just the way it is. This isn't something that's singular to the Arizona fan base right now. The transfer portal and the madness that it has caused, sports talk radio, message boards around the country, it is like turned them all into just madhouses. And I get it. It's a lot more to talk about. It's microwave recruitment's happening really quick on to the next guy. And also the thing about the transfer portal is, as you know this, if you follow it, with most fan bases, whether it be Arizona, whether it be Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, West Virginia, you name it, the next guy that hits the transfer portal is the best guy. And it's the guy that you got to go get, whether or not he's even remotely a fit for your program or not. So it's just something that I'm sure Tommy, getting way back to where we were, I think Tommy's going to adjust his strategy a little bit. There's no way that they won't after some of the things that they've dealt with. But, the guy's a successful dude. I think he's going to continue to be successful. And you got to give him the leniency to do things his way. Otherwise, why have him run your program?
A guy that I'm kind of interested by, and he's not as highly ranked as the others, is KJ Lewis under Tommy Lloyd, mainly because Lloyd has done a really good job at developing raw athletes, raw players in the past. He's shown that here at the U of A. What do you think about KJ's potential under Tommy Lloyd's leadership at Arizona?
So I think KJ is definitely a long-term player, a multiple-year player, one of those guys that you hope you build up into like one of those kind of heart and soul of your team type dudes as a junior and a senior. While he's athletic, I would say he's more strong than athletic. Like, of course,
Right.
around high school guys, he looks pretty explosive and everything. And I'm not saying that he's not a good athlete. He's a very good athlete, but he's also able to bully guys right now, which is something that's going to be a little bit harder to do at the Pac-12 level. I love his defensive potential. I think he can switch up and down, even in a pinch, defend a foursome because he's got enough strength. He's an unselfish guy. He's got to become more confident with the jump shot. He's got to be better at the free throw line because he draws a lot of contact on drives. But I think he's going to be a good player with time, and he's a kid that if you talk about a kid who wants to be at Arizona, this kid wants to be at Arizona bad. He's wanted to be there pretty much his entire life. So you need a few of those guys that are going to come in and hopefully stick with the process and grind their way through and have some faith in the vision that the staff has for him. And I really think they see him as a guy come in, play a role, provide some toughness early on, and then let's develop him into a team leader during his junior and senior year.
Okay, Eric, before we let you go, what do you think of NIL, and what does that mean for the future of college basketball? I know that everybody's kind of seeing how this goes as it unfolds, but do you have a crystal ball, pardon the pun, on how this is going to play out?
Man, something is going to have to give because there's so many working parts of this right now, right? One, I think the majority of us agree that, hey, these kids should be able to get something. There's a big, huge pie out there. They're the ones whose work is generating all the income, and they've not been able to get any of it, unless we're talking about old school NIL deals, with the bags being dropped. But also what NIL was intended to be is not what we're seeing right now. It was supposed to be you get on campus and now you can profit off your name, image, and likeness. And frankly, it's basically turned into pay for play. It's turned into who can offer who the most, not who can get on campus and sell themselves the best and make a little extra. And that's all fine, but eventually there's going to have to be some regulation of that. Our salary cap's going to be put in. Are there going to be more contracts? A lot of kids are signing contracts with the collectives at various campuses when they get on campus. And the other thing that we've got to have is what we've got is a lot of kids who have agents that are calling around saying, hey, XYZ University offered my guy $350,000 a year. If you can offer me $400 or offer him $400, we'll get him. Well, one, we don't know how many schools actually have those types of funds available through the collectives or whatever. And there's also no way to check to see, hey, has that kid actually gotten an offer like that? Or are we just bidding against ourselves because some guy slick talked us into it? So those are the aspects that are really interesting to me of how they're going to play out, because there's going to have to be some type of management. And, we've basically achieved a pro model in college sports at this point. So you either need to get with it and accept that's what it is and quit years of sticking your head in the sands and figure out a way to make it work for everyone and at least have some type of regulation, not only for the school's benefit, but for the protection of the kids and protection of everyone involved. But it's going to be interesting because it's wild right now. There's no accountability in it. Guys are just out there. Coaches are out there lying about how much they can get guys at certain programs. There's, agents lying about how much their guys have been offered. And it's going to take a couple of years for this all to kind of shake out. We're going to get to a point where, I'm sure there's some ambitious reporter out there right now trying to dig up tax returns of players to see what they've actually gotten, right? This is where we're headed. We all know it. So maybe for once the NCAA can kind of get ahead of this, get everyone together and figure out a solution that's equitable to everyone involved rather than just a free-for-all.
He's Eric Bossi, National Director of 24/7 Sports. Eric, really appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time, my guy.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
All right, we do appreciate Eric Bossi. There's a lot to unpack right there. But while we're unpacking this, why don't we talk about Circle K first? All right, you can make sure you're not missing out on all this great stuff. Head to circlek.com/store locator to find Circle K's near you. All kinds of good stuff, as we've talked about many times. They service people throughout the entire city. That's what they're there for. Circle K, check it out. You can get Polar Pops, you can get drinks, great deals. And my pick of the week is I am picking the Los Angeles Lakers to win Game 6 against the Memphis Grizzlies. There it is. Take it down. All right. Now, we got to talk about what Eric Bossi said because there's a lot to unpack here. First, you got to go with what he said. He said, he's known Tommy Lloyd for a long time and that Tommy Lloyd gets it. And he said he understands the frustration of some University of Arizona Wildcat fans. And, let's be honest, there's reasons for some frustrations because you only have 7 players on the roster. But at the end of the day, the kids that he prioritized, Carter Bryant, Jamari Phillips, he has here in that 2024 class. And like you said, if Carter Bryant continues to develop, this could be a guy that puts up some pretty nice numbers as a freshman, and that's something to keep in mind. All right, Dirty Dancer says, why is ESPN so terrible at rating kids? It's because they're not at the events. I'm not dismissing it or anything, but they're just not at the events. I've never seen an ESPN guy there. Maybe they are. I've never seen them. 24/7 and Rivals, you see there all the time. And On3 is new, but yes, you see them there as well. Those are the 3 services that are actually watching these kids. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. Now, I thought it was interesting what he said, too, about all 3 of these guys. I want to talk a little bit about KJ Lewis as well, about where he said, he can be one of those heart and soul type players. And that's a good thing. I think a lot of times people overlook somebody because of their rankings. I'm a big KJ Lewis fan, and I thought he said that, he could really be a really, really good player as a upperclassman. So wanted to be able to talk about that. But I also love, too, what he said about Jamari Phillips, about he hasn't seen him yet but he's going to be obviously seeing him here in the next couple of days. A kid that can get to the rack, has some pretty good bounce, pretty good three-point shooter as well. There's a lot to like about him. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of different recruits right here at the EYBL. And BTH said, are high school events like EYBL getting less eyeballs now in the portal? Yes and no. Arizona doesn't seem to recruit the portal very much. So, that I think that's that's certainly something to look at. But Arizona is definitely recruiting the 24-25 class, and we're going to get to those in just a second here because we have a lot to get to. We have a very cool graphic as well. But first, I want to tell you about Shady Rays. All right, you might say, Mike, how can I look cool this summer? Shady Rays is here for you. Take your summer with the best. Take on summer with the best shades around 50% off. You can when you buy 2 or more pairs. It's hot out. It's about to get even hotter out. If you live in the sun, you want to look cool and you want to protect your eyes at the same time. Check it out, Shady Rays, exclusively for our listeners. Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code PHNX for 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by 250,000 people. And as you know, Tap and Bottle, Scott, Rebecca, great people, salt of the earth people. Check out their downtown location or the northwest side. Either one, it's great stuff there. And again, they do an amazing job when it comes to service, great drink. They got food trucks outside, great company. Check it out. Again, Tap and Bottle. Okay, now, Jacob Franklin, if you could pull up the graphic that we have here, the nifty little graphic that Sean DePaz just put in there. All right. Here's the players that you need to know, and we're going to break these guys down position by position right here. Carter Bryant, mega recruit, top 5 guy in the country. We've talked about him ad nauseum, and we will continue to talk about him because he's a superstar. He's the highest rated player that Arizona has gotten since DeAndre Ayton, and he is a player that Tommy Lloyd prioritized. And let's be honest here, if Tommy Lloyd he needed to prioritize the guys that he prioritized in the 2024 class, he needed to be able to get. And so far, he's gotten the 2 that he prioritized. Then you look at Jamari Phillips right there, top 25 national recruit. I have a feeling that this kid's going to be going up in the rankings, not down in the rankings. And because there's a lot to like about him, as we've talked about, he can get to the rack, he can shoot threes, comes from a very good family, great head on his shoulders, and another guy, too, that Tommy Lloyd wanted early on. Now, here's some other guys to keep an eye on right here. Some are almost all of these guys will be at the EYBL. Some won't, but most will. Now, Zoom Diallo, we talked about Zoom. Arizona's in it for him, but it's really difficult to find out how this recruitment is really going to play out, because right now it's Gonzaga, Arizona, but you're also seeing that Kentucky is possibly in the fold right there as well. Anytime John Calipari gets involved, we don't like that, so not a huge fan of that. Didon Thomas is fascinating, though, because everybody keeps talking about 2023 kids. And what's great about Didon Thomas is he has the possibility of reclassifying, but he would be a mid-year transfer, i.e. he would come in during the winter break and be eligible for that second semester. So if you could add him to a KJ Lewis, you would certainly like it. Plus, he's a multi-year player. He can play next to Boswell. He could take over for Boswell if Boswell were to leave for the NBA after this year. But again, a lot to like about what Didon Thomas can bring to the table. Then you got some other names you got to keep an eye on here. 2025 kids. Because again, we talked about it. Tommy Lloyd's going to be prioritizing certain players, and there's not going to be a ton of offers. These are the kids to know. LZ Harrington, top 10 national kid out of St. John Bosco in California. You're going to start seeing I think a repeating theme right here, a reoccurring theme. 6'4", 180. Projects right now is kind of a one-and-done type. Lots to like about him. He's a really good guy. Then you got Giovanni Ruff right there as well. Top 10 or top 20 guy out of Long Beach Poly, Arizona's looking at. And then Koa Pete, massive recruit. Check him out as much as you can. He's a Gilbert Perry top 25 guy. Okay, now. Let's see here. We've got Connor Johnson. Do y'all still want to go to the Big 12? Yes, I still want to go to the Big 12. I do not want to stay in the Pac-12 because, again, I believe that Arizona would be better there. I believe the competition is better, and I don't have really any faith in George Kliavkoff or the powers that be in this spot. Now, I thought something was interesting about what Bossi said about the NIL, and that, yes, I think that the NCAA has to figure this one out because, like he said, this isn't really, I think, what it is intended to be. The NIL has essentially become a pay-for-play type scheme where in the past players were essentially, let's just call it the way it is. You're basically paying players right now. Whereas with the name, image, and likeness, it was to profit off your name, image, and likeness. Because from jersey sales to, whatever that case may be, where you see a jersey in there, that is the kind of stuff that, we're supposed to be able to profit from. Not this, where let's just be honest here. You're just paying out the highest paid player, or paying out players. Not a huge fan of that right there. So again, that's something that I'm going to keep an eye on. I think it's fascinating and how this is going to transpire because I do believe that there's going to be something in play right there. Now, all right, we got a lot of questions about the Big 12 and portal leads. I have no portal leads right now. I will know more later this week. As I said, or later next week, as we've talked about, this coaching staff is very, very compartmentalized. We are going to do this, then we're going to do that. They're going to be watching high school kids all week, and I think that that's something to keep in mind. Now, Dirty Dancer says, joining the Big 12 is basically a death sentence for football. I have no clue why you would think that. Again, you're a smart guy, smarter than me, but how is that a death sentence for football? Because you can make the case that in the Big 12, yes, the Big 12 is drastically better in basketball, but in football, I think it's pretty much about the same. It's negligible either way. It's certainly not a daunting conference in football. So I would disagree with you right there. But again, and since everybody's bringing this up, the reason that I want to leave the conference, though, is because I have no faith in this. Look at this. The Pac-12 right now is still trying to find a TV deal where it's based off streaming. Every other conference is taken care of right now, and this has been something that has been a problem for the Pac-12 for the longest of times, in that you don't have leadership that really understands what that next step is. You got George Kliavkoff comes in. First thing he said is, we're not looking to expand, while every other conference is looking to expand. Then USC and UCLA go out, take or leave to the Big Ten right under his nose. Then the next thing he says is, well, we're not he doesn't say anything about the Big Ten, but then he says, we're not looking to poach Big 12 schools yet, or something to that effect. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, this is a guy that just doesn't quite, I think it's fair to say, he's just not ahead of the curve. But you got a lot of presidents, too, in the Pac-12. Not our guy, but you got a lot of presidents in, like, Michael Crow that don't really care about athletics, that this is far more of academics, and that's fine, but you should call it the way it is. I don't really see, like I said, I don't really see any drawback in football to the Pac-12. Or to the Big 12. So if you can give me a reason for that, I'd like to hear it, but I don't really see that one. But again, and also, while streaming is the wave of the future, that future is not here yet. And there's a reason that nobody wants to be on streaming. There's a reason that nobody wants to be, essentially not on cable television. So, again, there's nothing to indicate that this Pac-12 deal is going to be good. And the reason that the Big 12, I have no faith that the Pac-12 deal will be good is because they're still trying to figure out a deal right there. Now, my plan would be always that I would leave with Colorado, and I would like to leave ASU behind. Jacob Franklin can root for ASU in the Mountain West Conference or the remaining Pac-12 conference right there. So, again, I don't really get that football. Comparison. Now, speaking of football, the NFL draft is here today. Arizona Cardinals on the clock, or almost on the clock. You might say, where can I go watch this game? Thanks for asking. Four Peaks Brewery. All right, the best place to take in the NFL draft on April 27th is at Four Peaks, 8th Street Pub. For those of you who have registered, we look forward to seeing you there. Regardless where you're watching it, make sure you're enjoying a delicious Redbird Lager. Must be 21 years or up to it, and enjoy responsibly. Again, I would pick Will Anderson right here if I'm keeping that pick. They probably won't pick him. They'll probably pick somebody else, but that's what I would pick right there. And our guy, Tucson native Bijan Robinson, very enthused to see where he goes. Very excited to see what he goes right there. Now, that's kind of where we're at with that one right there. So, again, Pac-12 NFL draft right there, Four Peaks Brewery. And let's say your team isn't picking well and you're a little frustrated, saying to yourself, man, I wish that we had done better. Or I need something to just make myself feel a little bit cooler. Oh, geez. There's so much more than gummies. They are about the culture and everything we do. They're truly about making the experience and weaving into the fabric of PHNX. Again, find them at your local dispensaries at ogsbrands.com. Must be 21 up to enjoy responsibly. And again, favorite flavors, you name it, they got it. Gummies, all kinds of great deals right there. Now, let's get back to some other questions right here. Connor Johnson, and when we get $40 million from Apple, they'll change your mind. You're not getting $40 million from Apple. You're not getting close to $40 million from Apple. If that was going to occur, my man, that would have already occurred. That is all nonsense. Again, the reason that there is no deal is because the deals have essentially sucked. That's I hate to really say that. And what's up, Nick Howard? How you doing, my man? The deals have sucked, and that's where it is. That's there's no way that Apple is paying $40 million, because these companies, they don't get big by bidding against themselves. And yes, Connor, if you could come on here and spike the football on that one, because if every school was getting $40 million, that deal would have already been signed. It is not going to occur. Stop listening to John Canzano. But back to Carter Bryant here, back to recruiting. This is a time that we need to celebrate, Wildcat fans, because, we've been beaten down a lot here. It was a tough loss to Princeton. We all know that. And recruiting has been kind of hit or miss. But if you're looking at it, big picture, I do think that this is very spirited affair right here, getting Carter Bryant, because it shows too that when Tommy Lloyd gets a priority recruit in mind, he goes ahead and he brings that guy and he gets that guy. And I think that's what's exciting about this entire process. He's already got Jamari Phillips in there as well. So let's see what he continues to do right there. But again, he's getting it. It's not going to always be easy, but so far so good. Now, again, looking forward to the EY, let's see here, Connor Johnson. Apple is known to pay a premium. And how do you all know the value of a turnkey product like the Pac-12 networks? Again, if this was already going to happen, Connor, this would have happened. Every school would have signed up for $40 million. These companies don't get rich by bidding against themselves for absolutely no money. It's again, the Pac-12 is in a terrible spot right now, and everybody knows it outside of about 2 reporters. So that's something to keep in mind. But recruiting. Jacob Franklin, if you could pull that graphic up one more time, I really like this. These are the names to keep an eye on this weekend, and there's some other guys as well. We're going to have a short coming out about this here in a little bit. A couple other names to keep an eye on as well. Elijah Williams, Monty Williams' son, plays at a Scottsdale high school. Cam Holm, you might remember his brother, Deron Holmes. And then LeBaron Falone, a kid that was committed to Auburn. Okay, Jacob, thanks. A kid that was committed to Auburn. 2024 point guard. Arizona has reached out. Arizona is showing interest. We like to see that. So we'll keep everybody up to date on how all of this transpires. As far as the transfer portal goes, I'd love to sit here and throw you names. I don't have any names. I'm hoping, though, that on Monday we can have some names right there. But recruiting, that's going to be the focus of this staff pretty much this entire weekend. Now, we're going to sign off here in a second, but going to be back with you tomorrow. Going to be a little bit earlier. We're going to have everybody, and we're going to break down. Sheer myself are going to break down every single player that Arizona is going to be looking at during this the EYBL. Again, this is a pretty cool event, everybody. You get to go up there. You get to watch a lot of different guys, you get to watch a lot of different players up there, and you get to kind of see who the coaches are following and whatnot. So, again, we'll be out. We'll have a long podcast tomorrow. But, again, big thanks to Eric Bossi. He was absolutely fantastic here. And Carter Bryant, again, this is now a really, really good time to be an Arizona Wildcat fan. Connor Johnson, all of those numbers you're throwing out are total nonsense, but we like you nonetheless. Okay, on that note, we're going to sign off right here. Jacob Franklin, you're the man. We will talk with you tomorrow. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.